whether it's a situation where people are talking past each other or whether it's someone trying to understand a certain problem, words always have something to do with those problems. And in this day and age of information, it seems like we give definitions less credit than we should. We just have the definition of a word at our fingertips, for example. We just search what the word means and that's it. But there's usefulness in thinking through what the words actually mean. And truly, once you think about a definition or a word, you start to unpack the assumptions within the arguments you're actually making. So you're using a stack of words next to each other when you're actually building your argument or writing or whatever it is. But those words actually have the assumptions embedded in them. So what we're trying to say here is that thinking about words and definitions is much more useful than we actually acknowledge it to be. So let's try to think about some concrete benefits in thinking about words and definitions. So one thing I notice is that when people try to understand a certain topic, they would start with the how. So how does a bank work? But reverting back to our discussion, it shouldn't be a how question first. It should be a what is question first. So what is a bank? And as soon as you start to think about this question of the what is first, you'll start to subconsciously answer some how questions. So by the time you get to the how question, you would have answered 50% of your questions without even knowing it. So there's usefulness in thinking about the definitions and words before even starting to unravel the mechanism behind it. So we usually start with how does a system work? How does a bank work? Or etc. But there's actual usefulness and benefit in starting with the what is question first. So another benefit we can actually extract from this approach is critical thinking, surprisingly enough. And if you think about it, mathematics is really defining words beyond doubt. It just uses a different language, but the idea is the same. So the idea of mathematics is really defining things beyond doubt. So if we try to simulate that in the real world, although it's practically not possible, but if we try to simulate it to some degree and try to think about words when we can, then we can really start to see the critical thinking aspect of questioning words or thinking about words, to be specific. And to add to this point, sometimes I myself would be trapped, let's say, in a certain problem. If I'm trying to write a certain article, then when I try to define the words within the article, I try to see what next steps I should take. So this also adds on to the point of critical thinking we mentioned. Another thing you'll be surprised of when you're trying to emulate this approach is it'll actually make you formulate better questions. Because as we said, the words are made up of assumptions inside them. So once you actually think about those assumptions in a deeper way, then you actually have a better approach to formulate questions. And also it gives you an ability to actually answer questions better as well and just navigate through questions better, because you'll have the ability to actually unpack those packages of assumptions or words, if you want to call it that, and actually dissect them and try to answer or navigate through the question. So this was our topic for today. Thank you very much for watching and see you next time.